What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Off the Top Rope, Off the Mic Sports Network. Big weekend of professional wrestling. Let's look at Saturday night's main event. NBC, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. For me out here and those on the West Coast. This should not overlap, provided that they don't have more than 5 hours of content in Texas for All in Texas. This should not overlap. And, even with 4 matches, this show looks actually pretty damn solid given, the limitations and like there's a little bit of intrigue, heading into this whole thing that I'm genuinely curious to see how this thing gets sifted out. So, let's start off with, one of the, I guess you could say the undercard match really of this show. It's Solo Sikoa defending the United States Championship against Jimmy Uso. Jimmy Uso got the pin on SmackDown off via a distraction finish. Solo just won the championship. I think this is pretty cut and dry, pretty straightforward. I think Jimmy Uso will lose. Solo Sikoa will retain the championship. Maybe there's a whole commotion after the match, and this is where Jacob Fatu returns to set up whatever we're gonna do with Solo and Jacob leading into SummerSlam. I would imagine that we would get a rematch there in some capacity, or who knows, Jacob and Jimmy start forming their own thing to counter the MFTs. But I will say Solo Sikoa, I felt pretty good about it, but then seeing Solo actually take a pinfall in that tag match in the main event of SmackDown leads me to believe that there's no way that Solo Sikoa is losing the championship. He literally won the championship 2 weeks ago. Like, he literally won it 2 weeks ago. There's just no point in just ending it right here. I love that Jimmy Uso is getting a singles opportunity in this position. A lot of people think that he may be the better of the two Usos. So it's nice to see Jimmy getting rewarded for some of his great work that he has done. But yeah, I just don't see Jimmy winning the championship here. It's good to see him get a singles opportunity, but yeah, I think Solo's going to retain. I do think the bigger thing here is, does Jacob Fatu or what else happens in the aftermath of this? Because that's really going to be the story of this. I think that might be the story of the night, to be honest with you. Is a lot of, potential interference and interactions going on away from the matches. Which leads me into the next one. Randy Orton taking on Drew McIntyre in just a straight singles match, but the new added element of intrigue here is Jelly Roll is going to be in Randy Orton's corner, and we're presuming that Logan Paul is going to be in Drew McIntyre's corner. So that's going to set the stage for this. Drew McIntyre got a leg up on Randy Orton with a Claymore from behind him. It's that whole Jelly Roll segment. I'm going to say Randy wins this match. It's hard for me to see Randy Orton losing 2 singles matches in a row. It's hard for me to see that. I think there could be a lot of nonsense going on that leads to Drew McIntyre taking a loss here. I don't think it really harms him that well. Drew McIntyre's got enough equity in this thing. And then, you can have some fun at SummerSlam and, see what the hell these 4 guys do with each other. But it's going to be interesting to see what type of involvement, Jelly Roll and Logan Paul have in this match. It's a very late curveball into this thing, and it clearly is setting the stage for something 3 weeks down the line. So, I would have liked for this build to have started a little bit earlier. But, hey, I actually kind of dug what they did on SmackDown. It was kind of a nice little wrench into this whole build. And hey, like I said, Randy and Drew weren't going to be doing anything substantial at SummerSlam. How they were built there, that's a completely separate issue. After SummerSlam, we can have a discussion about Drew McIntyre and him potentially being in the world title picture. He seemingly is hinting at potentially going after Cody Rhodes. I think he should be one of John Cena's last opponents, and he should beat John Cena, absolutely. And I frankly, I think it would be great heat for him to be the one to retire him effectively. So, listen, Randy and Drew, just like, they're kind of in the middle here. So this is clearly a fun little match to keep these guys busy for the biggest show this summer. I'm fine with that. Then we get to one of the better built matches of this show. I mean, obviously the main event's going to be Gunther and Goldberg, and we'll get to that in a second. But LA Knight taking on Seth Rollins. This has gotten a ton of meat over 2 shows. LA Knight's really a SmackDown guy. So, but he's been crossing over to Raw to build this thing. Like, they're giving LA Knight some respect, everybody. Like, I was worried about him after this Money in the Bank thing that he lost and Seth won, but they're clearly leaning into it. There's going to be interference galore all over this place. You better believe that the Seth Riders, even though because they still don't have a name, so I guess I'm going to call them the Seth Riders. LA Knight took a beating at the end of this show. He took a tsunami, he took a spear, and he was left laying No Seth Rollins on this show. Everybody's going to be surprised at what I'm about to say. I think LA Knight wins this match, but hear me out. There's going to be interference galore. Maybe CM Punk is there, but the bigger thing that I think is going to happen here, I think Roman Reigns is going to return and cost Seth Rollins this match. Seth Rollins being Mr. Money in the Bank, I don't think he needs. Listen, I think there is more to be gained out of this match if LA Knight wins, because at least you give him validation for all that he was going. He gets something off of Seth. Seth is still Mr. Money in the Bank. He's going to be world champion at some point, probably as soon as SummerSlam. And to me, having Roman return, I think, is a good way to, basically tell the story. And he's coming back in Atlanta, which is a near and dear place to his heart. He played college football there. We saw all the stuff in the build-up last year. I think he resides there. I think he resides in Pensacola, but he has spent a lot of time in the Atlanta area. So this is a personal thing. I think that this is going to clearly be the return point where Roman sets his eyes on Seth Rollins, and we figure out how we're going to get to SummerSlam. Are we going to do some sort of crazy mixed up tag match? Are we going to do something else? But CM Punk could be there, but I feel pretty confident in saying that our tribal chief is going to make his return for the first time since the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania. And then the main event, presumably, I mean, I'm like I said, it's the only world championship match on this show. There's a United States championship match. So to me, and especially considering this whole show has really been built around this, Gunther defending the world heavyweight championship against Goldberg in what is being billed as Goldberg's title match. I said build for Bill Goldberg. Okay. A lot of people have tried to throw hot takes saying that, hey, what a shock to the system if Bill Goldberg wins the world championship and retires with it. I think that's a terrible idea. Everybody's talking about taking thunder away from All In Texas. That's not going to take the thunder away from All In Texas. People will be talking about it, but a lot of people are not going to be happy about it. Yes, the fans in Atlanta will go crazy, but in the immediate aftermath, you are completely sacrificing so much long-term booking and so much investment in Gunther, who just lost to Jey Uso. And a lot of people were not happy about that. You think putting a 58-year-old Goldberg who can barely move over Gunther is going to validate that? And some people are saying, well, Seth Rollins can cash it. If Roman Reigns does come back like I'm predicting, there's no way in hell Seth Rollins is cashing in. There's no way in hell that Seth Rollins is going anywhere near this match. And there's no story to it whatsoever. Gunther just won the world title. This is his first title defense since winning it. I wasn't a fan of this being a world heavyweight championship match. This is about getting Gunther over to the next level. So I hope that this is a harmless Goldberg gets a couple of hope spears. Gunther kicks out relatively easily, puts him in the choke and puts him away, and that's it. And then there's a little, and then, going off the air, maybe we have a respect moment with Goldberg and his family as he says goodbye to the professional wrestling profession. And a lot of people are going to say, finally, there's no good whatsoever in 58-year-old Bill Goldberg winning this match. None. There is no value to it whatsoever. Not even a Seth Rollins cash-in can rescue this. I understand that he's in his hometown, but you are risking and sacrificing multiple things. Had Gunther, now I can't even believe I'm saying this, had Gunther not lost to Jey Uso at WrestleMania, and, now just recently won back the championship, maybe there's an argument to go this route. I wouldn't say that because, like I said, I just don't think giving a guy who barely can move and is nearly 60 years old your world title at this stage of his career is even a remotely good idea, even in his retirement match. So I think Goldberg and Gunther, if they do it the right way and they keep this relatively short, I actually think that it could be somewhat entertaining and the crowd will probably be really into it because Atlanta loves Goldberg. He's their native son. It's a good way to send him off. Okay. But Gunther cannot lose. He absolutely cannot lose. If that happens, it's one of the it's honest to God one of the worst booking decisions maybe known to man. It really is. Fiend was bad. This is not this would, I would say, rival it, to be honest with you, because why in the hell would you do this at this guy? This guy hasn't wrestled a match in 3 years. He hasn't wrestled a match in 3 years. He hasn't won a match, which was a no holds barred match against Lashley. That was 4 years ago. The guy's 58. He's going to be 59 in December, I think. There's no good whatsoever in Goldberg winning at Saturday Night's Main Event and winning the World Heavyweight title. And especially, and even if you're convenient out, which I don't like, because Seth has really no relevance to this. He's barely interacted with Gunther. He hasn't even interacted and mentioned Goldberg. So why would he care? He's already been hinting at other storyline plots. Plus, if Roman Reigns does come back, then I just think that it's a layup that Seth is going to be out of the building. There's no reason for him to go back there and cash in. He's going to be occupied with Roman Reigns. That's what that's about. So it should be a big show. I'm hoping to see that there's some decent stuff that they throw out there, because they're going to want to create some headlines. And everybody's talking about creating headlines. Guys, if you think Roman Reigns coming back would be a massive deal, and you know what? There is an outside chance that maybe they position the World Heavyweight Championship match off the top. I don't know if they'll do it. I think they'll make it the main event. But Roman, because my guess is, they'll start off hot with the Roman return if they're going to do it. And then, they'll close with Gunther and Goldberg. But yeah, this should be an interesting show. It's definitely not going to be, all in Texas, considering all the investment that they put into that show. And the top 4 matches there are great. But this is, what, for throwing together, show on a Saturday night on NBC, pretty good job. Anyway, we'll have Evolution predictions coming up here on the channel later. Thanks to the over 1,600 people who subscribe here. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. Thanks so much. I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.